I think it all comes down to simplification and harnessing automation. So the biggest thing I would say over here is simplify your structures. That is the core thing of modern day search.
All right, Bob, welcome back to your own podcast.
Hey!
Yeah, welcome. One of the first guests for the new season of the PPC Mastery podcast. I couldn't not invite you, obviously. So welcome to my show, your show. It's a pleasure having you on. And actually, you're the only person who's coming back twice in one season. So I'm super excited for that.
And I feel honored.
Yeah, man. Couldn't not have you. Would be weird. But I want to start this conversation with two quick questions. So that the audience knows a little bit more about you as a person and not only how you look at Google Ads. So tell us something, Bob, about yourself that most people don't know. And I'm actually curious because you're probably going to say something that I don't know either. So
I think you do know. I think you do know. So I have a lot of weird things to mention. So I left out the most weird things. And I basically kept it somewhat professional, to be honest. So I think a lot of people...
Don't go there.
No, I won't. I promise. It will be bad for PPC Mastery, I think, and myself as well. But yeah, I think people do not know about me personally is I think that a lot of people do not know that I really like everything that runs on gasoline. So yeah, told you to keep that I would kept it safe, right? So
like, oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm a fan of riding my KTM adventure motorcycle across the country. The Netherlands isn't that big, but I like to ride the 𝗏, which is a really cool route that you can take across full of the Europe. So it's basically a route called the Trans-European Trail, which is a unpaved road, mostly across Europe. So you can drive it vertically, you can drive it horizontally, and you can basically pick up the tracks here nearby where I live, and then ride all the way to the northern part of the Netherlands and all the way to Spain if you would like.
Whoa.
By the end of this month, I'm going to Ireland with 3 friends of mine, also adventure riders, also doing the 𝗏, which is really cool. And yeah, next to riding my motorcycle, I am a huge car guy. So I try to build a small collection of really nice cars. So I just recently purchased my first BMW 1M that I'm really happy about. There are only like 50 cars in the Netherlands registered, which is my little baby.
Nice.
And previously when I was a kid, and that's actually a fun story, I already was like a really car enthusiast. So when I was going to the store with my mother during Fridays, for example, I always had to lie down on the parking lot and basically count the number of exhaust tips a certain car had. Then I was like, hey, Mom, look at this car. It has 4 exhaust tips. It must be really fast. So yeah, I was kind of crazy into cars already when I was really young. And I still am. So yeah, that's a thing not a lot of people know about me. But now you do. And I have a lot of weird more stuff, but I'm not going to tell you.
That's for another day.
Yeah.
And so next question is, what's something that you believe about Google Ads that most people disagree with?
Ooh, that's a nice one. I think a lot of people agree that you have to be really good in Google Ads, and you basically have to deeply master Google Ads to get any result and any traction with your business. But I think although you need to truly understand Google Ads, how it works, how you can really gain traction, how you can scale, I think the true scaling begins at the other side of Google Ads, which is your website and your landing page and your offer. So I think if you really want to skyrocket your result with Google Ads, you have to work on the metrics that brings the highest leverage. Think about metrics like conversion rate for lead gen, SaaS, e-com, basically all businesses, AOV, average order value for e-com, but also, for example, a lead to sale rate for lead gen and SaaS. If you're focusing on offline conversion tracking and focusing on closed deals, I think if you're focusing on those metrics and trying to improve them, I think if you are able to do exactly that, suddenly you're able to scale inside of Google Ads, and suddenly you're able to launch that display campaign, and you're able to suddenly get traction with your video for action campaign, because suddenly that conversion rate is there and you're starting to get it more efficient. So I think by focusing on everything outside of Google Ads is one of the core things to really scale. And I think a lot of people are focusing too much on just Google Ads.
Yeah, that's totally fair. All right, cool. So Bob, what we're going to be talking about today is search, search campaigns, and as we like to call it, modern day search. And I think search is probably the campaign type that has changed the most in recent years, in terms of what used to work, what is working now with keywords, match types, campaign structures, all that stuff. So I would really like to pick your brain on that, because I think you're really, you have a deep, solid understanding of search campaigns. So my first question would be, Bob, how has search changed over the years, and how have you seen that certain things that may not, that used to work back in the days that are working, that used to work back in the days that are not working now, and vice versa? So how have you seen search change over the years?
Yeah, good question. So search is actually one of my favorite topics inside of Google Ads. I'm a lead gen specialist by heart. I am doing ecom on the side, but I really like lead gen the most, to be completely honest. So search is, really my campaign type. So yeah, you can basically split that answer into two separate answers by looking at how the search behavior has changed, and how everything has changed inside of Google Ads, in particular within your search campaign. So by starting at how search behavior has changed the last couple of years, well, I think search behavior has changed drastically. So you and I, users across the world, demand, very tailored results, and they tend to search for very specific search queries. And they tend to use a very big variety of wording that often consists of 4+ words to find that result they're looking for. So next to that, we also see certain trends appearing. For example, people are increasingly searching from their mobile devices. They're increasingly searching with their voice, and I think also decoding what people mention as the user intent is becoming increasingly complex, because Google is becoming so good at understanding what people are looking for based on previous searches, and also understanding the semantics behind every search, that people also tend to search in an indirect way, where it isn't really clear what people are looking for, especially when you as an advertiser are trying to understand the user intent. But luckily Google is able to do so. So just to give you some examples how search behavior has changed throughout the last couple of years. Before 2010, when people were looking for spaghetti recipes, they would simply search for the word spaghetti recipe. Somewhere around 2017, 2018, somewhere around that period, people started to include more complex wording, because the pages on the internet has increased. People are able to find way more tailored results. There's a result for every single query. So people started looking for queries like gluten-free vegan pasta recipe under 500 calories. And nowadays they're looking for, hey, I'm looking for a vegan pasta al dente recipe that includes certain ingredients, and for every search there is an answer. So that also means that you as an advertiser have to be able to capitalize on that, because it's really easy to miss out on certain certain queries, especially if you're still using, very old tactics, where you're, for example, only utilizing manual CPC with exact match keyword types. If you're not harnessing the power of the newest features within Google Ads, I think you're missing out on those more complex queries. So so that has changed at the search behavior side, and inside of Google Ads within your search campaign, a lot has changed as well. So things that we worked with previously, for example, previously we were scagging, creating single keyword ad groups. We were leveraging the alpha-beta structure on the campaign level, where we essentially created a exact match campaign and then also a broad match modifier campaign, and basically use that as a seed harvest structure to increase our control. Or we utilized match type specific ad groups, or even fun times. That's all a thing of the past. That worked really, really well when the search industry and also the search behavior was relatively simple and easy to understand. But since the user search behavior has changed and Google's stack has evolved, that really, really doesn't work anymore.
Hey guys, real quick, if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything in the future, and feel free to share with a friend, colleague, or family member, because that's the only way we can grow the show. All right, back to the show. If we look at what search is like now, in our Search Mastery course and in the Google Ads Masterclass, we call it modern day search. So our framework for successful search campaigns, 2024 and beyond. What are the core components of a successful search campaign now, in what we call modern day search? And if there are any differences between e-com and lead gen, as you said, your main focus is lead gen, but you're also doing e-com. But I would love to know if there are differences between those things, etc. But let's start with, what are the core components of a successful search campaign today?
Yeah, good question. So I think it all comes down to simplification and harnessing automation. So the biggest thing I would say over here is simplify your structures. So that is the core thing of modern day search. So in the age of AI, I think less is more. It will result in more ease of management. It will increase your efficiency, and it often also increases your result, because you're able to better instruct Google's algorithms and also leverage Google's tech, which is also referred to as Google AI. So by simplifying your setups, you basically allow for Google Ads to learn faster, because more data flows through a lesser amount of assets. That generally tends to give you better results and better performance. It also allows for different things. For example, it's way easier to identify certain trends. Managing your campaigns becomes really, really simple, because instead of managing 4 campaigns with 100 ad groups, you can manage just one campaign with 20 ad groups, for example, after consolidation. You will have less margin of error. You can better allocate your budgets, and often it also results in a higher return on your time. I like to call it as a higher return on effort. So everything you do results in, a higher ROE, essentially. And that also means that you can allocate that time towards other regions that are really important to skyrocket your Google Ads campaigns. So it starts with simplification, and you can simplify on the campaign level. You can simplify on the ad group level, and you can also simplify in terms of keywords. So by starting at, for example, the campaign structures, if you do not really have a good reason to segment out your campaigns, for example, you do not have a good reason to segment your campaigns because you want to maybe allocate different budgets, you want to maybe use different geographic targeting, you maybe want to use different targets, you might want to use different bid strategies. All of the things that are basically set on the campaign setting level, if those settings are the same across multiple campaigns, then essentially you can you can combine and consolidate those campaigns. So if you do not have a good reason to segment out your campaigns, consolidate. It will result in a way better data flow inside of your campaigns. It will increase the management, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of the things we just went over.
Yeah, and just off the top of your head, do you know some of these reasons why consolidation might be, or when you would want to consolidate? So as you said, only consolidate when you have a good reason to. What are some of those reasons that, that are applicable when you are thinking about consolidation versus segmentation?
Yeah, I always frame it the other way around. So I think it's better to ask yourself, is there a reason to segment? Is there a reason to segment at all? And if I cannot find a proper reason to segment out my campaigns, then I shouldn't. That's basically my way of thinking. Yeah. And there's a full list of things you can go over that we also include inside of the Search Mastery course and also during the Google Ads Masterclass that we give. But for example, like I just told you, you only want to segment your campaign if you want to use a campaign-specific goal, if you want to set different budgets on the campaign level, if you want to use different bidding strategies, if you want to utilize different targets for specific keyword themes, if you want to target specific geographic regions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's like a list of 15 things that you can go over. And if you do not have a good reason that isn't included inside of that particular list, then just consolidate. You're often way better off.
So consolidate first, and then
yes, yeah.
If you have the data plus a really good reason, then you can think about segmentations, but always think about consolidating as much as you can to combine more data so that the algorithm has more to work with and can better predict conversions, right?
Yes, yeah, indeed, yeah.
So that's then one of the core pillars is your campaign structure. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's also tracking, but let's not talk about that because that's a rabbit hole on its own. Next to consolidation or campaign structure, what are the other core components of modern day search?
Yeah, so these are all points we went over for the campaign structures, but you essentially can do the same for your ad group structures. So I still come across a lot of segmented out ad groups that could be consolidated. So here's the deal. I think Google AI, if you're leveraging smart bidding, if you're leveraging machine learning-based products like RSAs, you need a lot of data. And by a lot, I mean really a lot. So just to give you an example, if you're leveraging RSAs, and you are maxing it out, you're utilizing 15 headlines, that results in 2,730 unique combinations. 2,730 combinations by just including 15 headlines without pinning any of it, obviously. And the algorithm needs at least 100 impressions per unique combination to better understand what works in certain instances. So that means that if you really want to harness the power of RSAs, for example, you need 2,730 unique combinations times 100 impressions per unique combination. That results in almost 300,000 impressions on the RSA level, which is insane. It's just insane. And I think
even for big advertisers.
Even for bigger advertisers. And I went across a lot of RSAs inside of my high volume accounts. And I also included a couple of screenshots inside of the Search Mastery and the Google Ads Masterclass by just illustrating how many data points Google needs in order to tell you what works and what doesn't. Even in my biggest accounts, where some of the assets have like more than 500,000 impressions on just one asset alone, it just says a performance label, good, without giving you any instructions what works and what doesn't. So this just illustrates the amount of data you need in order to properly feed the algo with enough data so it can optimize towards, the best combinations possible. So that means that if you're going to segment out your ad groups for example, across 100 plus ad groups for different types of long tails, that you're going to need almost 300,000 impressions per RSA within all of your segmented out ad groups. You're never going to be harnessing the RSAs to the max, because they will be in the learning phase every single day, every single month, every single year, and they won't give you the results you want. So therefore, I think if you consolidate your ad groups into tightly themed ad groups, where you still try to find a balance between, well, the relevancy of the ad group, but also keeping in mind that you want to maximize the amount of impressions going through your ad group, that is the way to go. And that will really benefit the automation side of things.
Yeah. So tightly themed ad groups, what does that, could you give an example of that?
Yeah. So, for example, instead of creating 10 ad groups for a TV focused campaign, where you, for example, segment out your keywords into 10 different ad groups like TV, TV best, TV smart, TV 1080p, TV 1080p best, TV 1080p prices, TV 1080p best deals. Instead of segmenting out all of your long tails like that, try to find a way to consolidate your keywords, essentially, to create one core keyword theme. So, for example, in your TV ad group, try to combine all of your generic TV related searches. For example, TV, buy TV, compare TV prices, best TV deals. Those are generic searches that you can, 100% combine in just one ad group, where you can then find a way to create one really specific creative theme around that by including those words inside of your RSA copy, and also by leveraging dynamic features like dynamic keyword insertion, also ad customizers, where you can insert the keywords, for example, in a specific headline, or craft different copy for specific keywords to make it more relevant. So look for ways to consolidate specific keywords into just fewer amount of ad group assets, instead of just creating a long list of long tail ad groups where you have low volumes of data flowing through. So what I like to do is I like to aim for at least 3,000 impressions per week on the ad group level. And I have to stress that this isn't always possible within smaller accounts, but within mid to high volume accounts, that is a good target to aim for. So look for those amounts of impressions per week to maximize your data flowing through one specific ad group. And then don't forget to still make your ad groups relevant, because sometimes people also tend to over consolidate, and that results in a drop in relevancy. So you have to strike a balance, and that is somewhat hard, and it is different for every single account. But yeah, that's basically the best practice over here.
Yeah, for sure. And that's it on the structure side. Super useful insights for ad groups. What's the next step then? Targeting keywords. How do you? I guess broad match is a super controversial topic for a lot of people. We see it in the masterclass as well. Every time we bring up broad match, people are like super careful. Oh, is he gonna say I need to start using broad match?
Is he gonna drop it?
Are you a secret rep? But what's your stance on broad match versus other keyword match types?
Yeah, so I've been testing with broad match for about 2 years already, quite extensively, and I still test with broad match in especially campaigns where it didn't work in the past. I try to give it a couple of extra chances to improve it on itself, and to to hopefully show that it works in more recent cases. So, well, broad match essentially reaches more users. It uses more signals, where broad match basically uses 4 more signals in comparison to phrase match and exact match. It looks at, for example, the landing page content. It looks at different keywords inside of the same ad group. It looks at previous searches of the user to better understand what they're looking for. And it also factors in the user location. Those last 2 signals, I find it really weird that Google isn't using those signals for exact match and phrase match as well. But that's how they frame it anyway. Yeah. So what I see in my accounts is I tend to see that broad match outperforms my exact plus phrase match keyword targeting structures, but it doesn't outperform it in every single account. So that's why I'm still testing with broad match in accounts where I'm still not running on full broad match. What I tend to see, that broad match tends to perform really well in the more complex verticals, where you have a lot of different unique search queries, where it is quite difficult to grasp every single unique search term. For example, let's refer to the example I gave you. For example, the spaghetti recipe example. People can search for the same spaghetti recipe in 100 different ways. So if you're going to focus on exact plus phrase match over there, I think you're going to lose out on a lot of queries. Whereas broad match is able to better understand what you're aiming for, the types of queries you're after, and hopefully it brings in, well, new unique queries that also convert. So in those accounts, complex verticals, where you also tend to have a relatively low search impression share, in those accounts, broad match tends to work really well. And that's where I often see great results. And in those types of accounts, I'm already running full broad match for quite a time already. But there are also accounts where it simply doesn't outperform my exact plus phrase match setup, which is quite traditional, as I would say it. So I'm still looking at the data. So I'm running 50-50 campaign experiments, where I simply test with my current setup versus a full broad match setup during, an extensive amount of time, and then just look at the data points. And if it outperforms my traditional setup, I just simply go over to full broad match. No questions asked.
Yeah, but only when you have proved it with data that it's actually working, and not just from the start blindly using broad match.
No, and that's a very good point. I would really recommend starting out with exact match and phrase match or phrase match to first, get some traction, get your campaigns up and running, hit your targets, and then if you're looking to scale and you're looking for new ways to grow your account, then start experimenting with broad match. Never just start right away with broad match, because generally phrase match plus exact match gives you a little bit more control, a little bit more efficiency, especially during the startup phase. Also, if you're going to leverage broad match, you also want to be leveraging conversion-focused smart bid strategies. And those are either target CPA or target ROAS with a really challenging target. So if you're, for example, on maximize clicks or maximize conversions, and you're going to then leverage full broad match, you're going to have a really, really hard time. That isn't going to work. It might work, but it's also going to bring in a lot of expensive conversions and also a lot of irrelevant traffic, because you're not restricting the algorithm. And that is really important to understand and to know. So make sure those requirements are there before you're starting to dabble into broad match.
Yeah, exactly. And we always, in Search Mastery, in the Google Ads Masterclass, we always are very transparent about the test that we ran with broad match and how we're running that, so that we never say, even if one account performed really well with broad match, we never say like, you should only use broad, because it really depends on your situation. And I think one underrated reason of why you can would also want to start with 𝗬𝗏 and 𝗏𝗡 with new accounts with small budgets is because you can have more control and learn better about what types of queries are potentially being matched and mismatched on those keywords. And with broad, I actually had one client in the past that wanted to expand. They were already big in Netherlands, Germany, a couple other countries in Europe, and they wanted to expand to UK. And this was a really big client, so they had infinite budget basically. So they said, let's run broad match from the start in the new country where they didn't have proof of concept, completely new with fulfillment and everything. But they just said, we want to dominate as much as we can, just grab search share and as much as we could, dominate the market and go full broad. And the first 2-3 months were really, really bad. Like we bled so much, it was crazy. Then after a while, it started to pick up, obviously, because the brand started to become more known and everything. But it's crazy how much you can sort of destroy if you start with broad match only. So especially if you have a small account, then 𝗬𝗏 and 𝗏𝗡 is just going to give you more of that control and also insights into search terms that are mismatches, because we've seen super crazy examples recently as well. I don't think I can say actually what Geert recently shared with us, but it was really crazy.
Yeah, sometimes the query matching is Google really tells us, it's really semantic and we try to understand every single search, but sometimes unique searches pop up and you're like, man, come on, are you serious?
And it's like sometimes it's close in terms of the words, but it means something completely different.
And we're not going to tell you the word that we just saw.
No.
So
so we had go ahead.
By ending that part of the conversation, I think there are also reasons to not use broad match at all. So sometimes if you're running a really small local campaign, for example, or you have a limited budget and you can simply not spend any more beyond that, there's still cases to be made to just run exact match keywords and or phrase match keywords, because they tend to give you more relevant searches and more bang for the buck. So I think broad match is especially interesting for those accounts where you're looking to scale and you're looking to go beyond what you already have inside of your accounts in terms of query matching, volumes, etc. So it isn't always the best practice to just go full broad.
Yeah. All right. So we have, this is the cool thing about these campaign types, about search, is everything that you just mentioned, every core component could be a podcast episode on its own. We can talk about an hour about consolidation. We can talk an hour about broad even. We could talk an hour about keywords. We don't have the time, but we have consolidation, so campaign structures. You mentioned for ad groups as well. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that smart bidding is important in this whole thing to glue it all together. Mm-hmm. Your keywords. You briefly spoke about RSAs. Is there anything else that is important in the modern day search framework that we haven't mentioned?
I think it comes down to those higher level areas. There's a lot more to it, but you're starting to getting more in the nitty gritty and the small little details of every single element of it. So we can talk for hours if you want to dive more deeply into, for example, RSA matching, RSA experimentation. We can talk for hours if you want to really understand how to work with, for example, smart bidding, or how to really consolidate your accounts and where to really look for. High level. I think we touched on all of the key components, but there's way more to it. But we need separate episodes for those, I guess.
Absolutely. So to bring this together and look a little bit into the future, let's put on your conspiracy mindset right now. Do you think Google will ever kill search campaigns or even keywords in favor of Performance Max?
I think they will eventually, but I think it will take some more time. So to be completely honest, by now, I would have thought that standard shopping would have been a thing from the past, but we are still able to run standard shopping campaigns instead of performance max, PLA only, or PMax full asset campaigns. So I think eventually those older dedicated campaign types will get phased out, but I think it will take some time. I think the first steps, I think they first need a new narrative in order to bring people on board, to think we do not need certain campaign types anymore, like standard shopping or search in this particular case. And we're already seeing that happening right now. So Google is pushing the narrative, the Google Ads power pair really, really hard right now, where they tell you, hey, you just need a search campaign, full broad, smart bidding, RSAs, dynamic features, and then paired with a PMax full asset campaign. And I think that is the actual first step in order to make us think that we do not need search anymore, because PMax can essentially do it all. Because if you're going to leverage this power pair, eventually PMax will take over and will cannibalize hard on your dynamic search campaign if you're not setting it up correctly. So that's already happening. And I think in the next couple of years, I think the first things that they will do is phasing out certain keyword types. So for example, they will tell us, hey, you don't need exact match and phrase match anymore, because broad match can essentially target the same amount of queries and more. So instead of targeting through exact match and phrase match, we're only able to target broad match, and then are able to exclude certain queries by just adding keywords to our exclusion lists or account level exclusions and whatnot. So I think that will be the first step, and then maybe somewhere in the future they will just kill search, where we are only able to maybe drive audience-based campaigns, or campaigns where you just give in a target, hey, I'm looking for these types of people in the full Google Ads ecosystem. Just go after them. This is my target. This is my budget, and just do it all for me. Basically what PMax is trying to do right now already.
Yeah, cool. So let's end this with a few rapid fire questions, Bob. I want to ask you a few, I don't even know what the word is in English. Stellingen, it's in Dutch. This or that. You cannot say it depends, and you cannot elaborate on your answer. So just keep it short, rapid fire.
Okay.
PMax or standard shopping?
Standard shopping.
Google Ads has advertisers' best interest in mind. Do you agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Broad match, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a hard one for it depends, but okay, cool. AARs, automatically applied recommendations, bad or good?
Hell no, bad.
Manual bidding or smart bidding?
Smart bidding.
Will all match types except broad be gone in 2 years?
No, I think it takes a little bit longer.
Interesting. All right, then the final one is, will search and shopping campaigns be around in 2 years?
Yes, it will take a little bit longer.
Standard shopping as well?
Yeah. I think it will take a little bit longer, but I think in 5 years, I cannot elaborate on the questions, I'm sorry. I think in 5 years, they'll be gone.
Yeah. I asked a follow-up question, so that was my mistake. All right, so to close this off, Bob, I think you shared your nuggets with us. To close off the episode, if you had to share 3 golden nuggets about driving results with Google Ads, what would that be?
3 golden nuggets. I'm going to keep these short. Consolidate and harness the power of all of the features currently inside of Google Ads. Like smart bidding, try to experiment with broad match, utilize all of the dynamic features you're able to use, like dynamic keyword insertion, ad customizers, and whatnot, to fully harness the power of Google's AI capabilities. Then second is, I think, we're saying this multiple times, and we're starting to be more vocal about this, but really look at things outside of Google Ads to really make your Google Ads campaign skyrocket, because there's only so much you can do inside of Google Ads to squeeze out the last 5%, whereas you can essentially double, triple, or even more your result by increasing core metrics like your conversion rate, by optimizing your offer and landing pages. So that would be a really, really, really important thing that I think all of us should focus more on. And lastly, I think experiment more. So I think a lot of people tend to, simplify their structures, look at best practices. Okay, how does my account needs to look like according to certain, modern day search practices? But it isn't always the solution for your unique situation. So make sure to experiment every single thing you come across the web, things that we teach, things that we are focal on, but also things that others are focal on, without implementing it right away. Because I've seen accounts basically go from 0 to 0 within just a few weeks, because people saw some interesting tactic around the web that they wanted to implement right away. That isn't the best way to go. If you're interested in testing certain things, make sure to experiment with it in an isolated way that causes no harm to your results in the short term.
Cool. Awesome. And with that, Bob, thank you for coming on your own show.
Yay! Thanks for inviting me. I feel honored.
And I just killed my lights for some reason. Anyway, it's the end. So thanks for coming on. And hey, where can people follow you?
ppcmastery.com.
The best.
No, they can head over to my LinkedIn profile. Follow me over there. If I share any content, it will be over there.
Occasional meme.
Occasional memes. And if they really want to pick my brains, you have to consider joining our community or membership, which is called the PPC Hub, because we're quite active in there and we're sharing a lot of cool stuff, case studies, best practices, things you can test over there as well.
Awesome. So with that said, Bob, thank you for coming on the PPC Mastery podcast, and you're going to be back soon for another episode later in the season.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening, and catch you in the next episode. Peace. All right, that's the end of this episode of the PPC Mastery podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you don't want to miss any future episodes, we're going to be back next week. Then don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend, family member, or a colleague, because that's the only way we can grow this show. Now, there's 2 more things I want to share with you if you want to take your Google Ads game to the next level. The first one is, if you want to get advanced Google Ads tips delivered straight into your inbox on Mondays and Fridays, head over to ppcmastery.com/newsletter to subscribe to our newsletter called the PPC Edge. And next to that, if you want to really take your skills to the next level and become the best Google Ads specialist you can possibly be, then consider joining the PPC Hub, which is our coaching and community platform for experienced Google Ads specialists. You can find everything about it on ppcmastery.com/hub. And with that said, I'll catch you in next week's episode. Peace.